Hello and welcome. I'm Sanichi with news from Tokyo, Japan, in case you missed it. One of the world's biggest car shows showed off their latest EV models from international companies. I was in Tokyo to take a look at how the industry has developed. Small cars, fancy cars, big trucks. All of these have something in common. They are electric vehicles, or EVs. Cars that are considered eco-friendlier and more sustainable. This is the Japan Mobility Show, returning after a 4-year break. During this period, the industry was hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, ending a decade of continuous growth for the industry. But the drop did not stop this year's event, with hundreds of companies attending, with EVs among the star attractions. And that's no surprise. Many countries have vowed to phase out the sale of new gas motor cars in the coming years as they try to reduce carbon emissions. With governments giving incentives to boost sales and car makers pumping out new models, sales in EVs have grown by 40% in the past half year. 14 million EVs are expected to be sold this year. And the largest market is in China, with nearly 60% of all registrations. Among the companies displaying in Tokyo is BYD, one of China's biggest EV makers.
It's got a very big meaning for BYD because this is Japan Mobility Show, and also Chinese company being on Japanese motor show has got really big meaning because we are only one Chinese auto company in Japan. We really focus on Japanese market by showing all of these kind of like high technology cars in Japan.
Driven by EVs, China is set to become the world's largest exporter of cars this year, overtaking Japan. But not everyone is welcoming China's rise in the auto industry.
Japanese car makers, the US car makers, they are the primary competitors. So they should be the ones that's most worried, or also some European automobile industry. I believe all the countries have set up their own protective acts or some regulations to reduce the amount of the cars imported from China.
While some governments are wary of Chinese dominance in the EVs, there is plenty of competition from other manufacturers. Among them is Taiwan's MIH Consortium, an alliance of companies including iPhone manufacturer Foxconn. They see an opportunity to break up the monopoly of traditional car makers.
So we're providing a platform for people to hop on, the new players, new things, software-driven, give the traditional guy a pressure to expedite their revolution. So by 2030, I think half of the adoption for the EV will then prevail. Then also, adoption of a smart vehicle for a better lifestyle will prevail. So this is going to happen quickly, as you can imagine. So autonomous drive, the AI-enhanced software.
With millions more EVs set to hit the roads in the coming years, the world envisioned by companies like MIH may arrive sooner than later. What is less clear is who will benefit most from the revolution, and if China will continue to lead the way. Kamishu and Sanichi for TaiwanPlus. Mixed martial arts, or MMA, is growing more popular in Taiwan, and some athletes from the country are now living and competing in Japan. I met some Taiwanese fighters in Tokyo. Striking, clinching, and ground fighting. This is 32-year-old Zeni Huang training in Tokyo. She's getting ready to fight in Pancrase, one of Japan's legendary MMA promotional companies. And she's a long way from home. Zeni is a Taiwanese mixed martial artist who decided to move to Japan a year ago to pursue her love of the sport and compete at its highest levels.
台湾跟日本的综合格斗这个项目风气，本来就是差太多了，就应该说运动风气就已经差很多了，就是支持运动的程度跟参与运动的人程度本身就差很多。
Zeni is known as Taiwan's first professional female MMA fighter and was a leading contender in the country. But that wasn't enough for her.
日本又是大家公认，就是说综合格斗是很强的一个圈子，所以我又给自己目標，如果我能在日本拿下一些冠軍的話，但我代表說我的實力也非常的強。
日本に来てからジェニーはすごく強くなってます。より気持ちも強くなって。
Zeni began practicing MMA 8 years ago and trains 6 days a week. It's a lifestyle that's hard on the body,
and is filled with unexpected challenges. Zenny says her family does not support her MMA passion. And despite her accomplishments, they've never attended any of her matches. Zenny not only lacks family support, but also faces financial challenges. Full-time training comes with a lot of extra costs, and women's MMA doesn't pay well, if at all.
非常少见，就是到一个程度的时候呢，你的对手全都是最顶尖的。那最顶尖，你要打败他们的话，你可能训练上要最好的状态，然后最认真的状态，体能也要最好的状态。那些东西都是必须要去，可能是要花钱去买啊，或是请最专业的教练啊，或是请专业的营养师去帮你规划。
However, the high costs did not stop Zenny from doing what she loves. Her never-give-up attitude serves her well in the sports.
技巧、经验还有精神，就是你那个不要放弃的意志力。你有些选手他被打了，然后晕了，但是他意志力很强，你会看到是在像电影一样爬起来，然后之后又很拼命的拼搏，到最后反败为胜。那个在 MMA 也很重要。
Zenny is in Japan with 32-year-old Duncan Hero, a heavyweight from Taiwan.
为了支持 Jenny，然后和她一起在格斗的职业路上互相成长。日本的 MMA 产业发展的非常有，他们已经产生一个属于他们自己的文化，然后还有已经有一定的规模。
Duncan is inspired by what he's seen in Japan and hopes Taiwan can develop a similar culture.
第一个就是需要钱跟资源，那第二个就是要培养这个产业的文化。
But for now, Taiwanese people who want to compete at the highest levels still need to go abroad. That's why Zenny is competing in Pancrase, 2,300 kilometers from home, hoping to be the first Taiwanese woman to take the championship title. Kamashu and Zaini Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Sumo wrestling in Japan is traditionally a sport for men, but women do participate at the amateur level. I met a female sumo wrestler in Tokyo to get a better understanding of the challenges she faces.
Training with a wind board with power and precision. This is 20-year-old Hasagawa Ryo, a member of a sumo club at Kyoto University in Tokyo. She joined in 2022, becoming the first ever female member since the club was established over a century ago.
うちの兄2人が最初相撲をやってて、で兄弟の中で結構ちっちゃい頃すごい元気だったので、そのまま道場に連れてかれて始めることになりました。
Ryo joined the sport because of her family and has their full support. But it hasn't been easy for her to get to where she is today. Her journey was made harder because sumo wrestling is traditionally a sport for men in Japan. It was only in 1997 when the first amateur tournament for women happened. Female wrestlers started getting more recognition after that.
なんか昔は結構そういう女の子なのに相撲してることをちょっとよく思われないこととかもあって、やっぱなんかこう男子の中で一人でやってることをよく思わない人とかなんかいたので、なかなかこう受け入れてもらえないかなと思ってたんですけど、なんか自分でこう突き進めていったら。
Instead of trying to convince the doubters, Ryo chooses to prove her professionalism and seriousness in the ring. Her performance has already won the respect of some other sumo wrestlers.
ものすごい強いんで、だけども本当すごい尊敬できる先輩でもあって、すごい自分も戦いたいって思える相手であります。
Ryo undergoes the exact same training as men in the club, which is sometimes challenging for her. However, that does not stop her from pursuing her ultimate goal.
なんか私は自分で相撲昔は結構大人の意思というかやりなさいって言われたから相撲やってたんですけど、今は自分で強くなりたいと思って世界一になりたいと思って。
Ryo is not the only one with that dream. Female wrestlers from Taiwan have also journeyed to Japan to prove they've got what it takes to win in the ring.
我觉得女生也可以，对吧？因为现在其实都是算是男女平等的，对啊。之前可能是因为相扑，他们就是有一些观念，可能他们会觉得女生不能到图表上面，但是我觉得现在观念可能比较改变。
But while there's growing interest in the sport among women, female wrestlers are divided on going professional.
就是觉得可以平等，就不一定有些项目只有男生，其实女生也可以。
大相撲って今相撲界でプロって言われてる世界はやっぱりアマチュアとはなんだろうな、そもそものこのなんていうんですかね、ものが全然違うと思っているので、そこに女子が入るっていうのはあんまりこう私個人としては望んでなくて。
These athletes are divided on what path they want to take in the sport, but their shared passion keeps them fighting the same battle, both inside and outside the ring. Kamashu, Scott Huang and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Taking in the sights of Tokyo on a rickshaw is a classic tourist experience. But with the tourism industry only now recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic, can rickshaws continue to hang on? During my stay in Tokyo, I got a ride to find out.
Dashing down the streets of Tokyo to show their passengers the beauty of the city, rickshaw pulling was invented in the 1860s in Japan as a cheap form of transport. Back then, the job was an easy entry into the Tokyo market for men newly moved to the city.
自分のしたことで笑顔にできたりとか、ありがとうって言ってもらえる、そういうのがやっぱすごく自分の今の毎日頑張るモチベーションになってる。
But the industry was hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic.
人力車に乗ってくれました。ただ2020年、2021年と、コロナが続いたので、その間に関してはもう僕ら、ドライバー、車夫の方が、観光に来ている人より多いんじゃないかってぐらい街は静かな状況の時もありました。
During the pandemic, rickshaw companies still managed to do business with a simple goal: to make their customers happy no matter how many they have. This is when more women started taking up the two-wheeled carts.
そうだ、お客さんで乗ったのがきっかけで、それからもともと人前に立つのが好きだったり、人を笑顔にするのが得意だったからです。
These new female pullers brought a new business. Many passengers feel they are more approachable.
ちょっと色が黒くてムキムキで少し怖い印象を与えることもあります。なのでそういった時に乗りたくてもちょっと怖いなって人はいらっしゃるんで、そういう時なんかはやっぱり女性の優しい感じとか、この細かいきめ細かいなんですかね、気づきだったりとかっていうところ。
They may have big smiles as they pull the carts, but the job is not as easy as it looks.
A rickshaw can weigh up to 250 kilograms with passengers on it, and for anyone it is really hard to pull. These rickshaw drivers need to go at least 10 kilometers each day with passengers, and during peak seasons they need to go further.
They pull this weight no matter the weather. In the summer heat and during wintry rain and snow, they work as long as it is safe to do so. And sometimes the passengers make their work even more stressful.
A lot of foreigners, they come to ride, and most of them, they have really good respect. Sometimes they think it's the rickshaw service. It's a car that human pulls. They think it's something else. We're not a taxi. We're not a horse. We're not a car.
Today, there are hundreds of rickshaw pullers hauling their passengers through Japan's streets. Hopefully, the industry is as resilient as they are, and tourists will be able to catch a ride on these human-powered vehicles for years to come. Kamashu and Sanichi for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching. In case you missed it, remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, today we leave you with images of former sumo wrestlers having fun with tourists and showing them their culture at a restaurant in Tokyo. I'm Sandy, take care and see you next time.
I'm Leslie Liao in New York City, and this is Taiwan Plus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.